Sometimes I go, what the fuck were you thinking? And other times I go, cool. But it's a surprise in any case. And as long as I can keep surprising myself, then it's fun.
Tell me all you know about Denis Kitchen.
I don't know anything. I'm very embarrassed.
I know the myth around Denis Kitchen, like this legendary cartoonist from the underground movement, like alongside names of Robert Crumb and Harvey Kurtzman.
Comics are a great medium to expose a lot of hypocrisy and things like that. That's a lot of fun.
You really want to start with the foundation of the Comics Code in 1954. The code allowed them to sell things without having to deal with angry parents.
It really emasculated the whole comic book industry.
Comics were being censored, and the stuff that was, to me, the most interesting to read was the stuff that was getting squashed.
It didn't begin with Friendly Franks, and comic censorship was not going to end with Friendly Franks.
I called it the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund.
It is a vital part of Denis Kitchen's legacy to the comics community.
Welcome to the Valley of the Dolls. If you don't like it, I get it. It's very hard to find a publisher. There are one or two who are fairer than others, but for the most part, these are a bunch of pretty exploitive sons of bitches.
There is a lot of hate out there, and these comics can show, one, that you're not alone, and two, there are lots of great stories, and three, you can tell your own stories.
Art always wins. Art always comes out on top.
The whole point of the Underground was to liberate content and to allow creators to own their material, which seems so basic, but it wasn't basic, and it still isn't basic.
Losing the Girl, as far as I know, is still banned in Katy, Texas, and who knows where else.
The Karen army is out in full.
God damn it, Dud.
Denis was one of the most ethical people I've ever known in comics or anywhere else. His word was his bond.
Hey, wait a second, guys. I am not done yet.
What's going on, world? It's your boy Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World. Today, I'm absolutely delighted, super excited to have one of our comic legends. He's probably never going to say that of himself, but he is, with everything he has done for me as a comics creator and for a lot of the comics creating community that I am friends and family with. I have the one and only Denis Kitchen. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you.
An honor and a pleasure to speak with you, sir. There's a new documentary that is going to highlight just some of the amazing work you have done for all of us within the community. And I'm curious where it started and how you felt about it. You know, not everyone has such a following and such an appreciation, but you do, sir. And I'm curious when you found out that there's these bunch of guys that wanted to, you know, kind of chronicle your career and what you have contributed with this film called Oddly Compelling.
Well, it's definitely a strange experience, I have to say. I've been a participant as a talking head in, I think, at least a half a dozen or more documentaries about other cartoonists. I never expected to be the focus of one. But yeah, the guys, the principals who are doing it, Soren and Ted, are very conscientious. They are professional in every sense. Ted is an animator. He's the one who's bringing some of my strange creatures to life. I especially have enjoyed watching that develop. So yeah, I was a little nervous at first, but now I'm very comfortable with what they're doing.
Amazing. And thank you, because I think we need to see, I know for myself, as somebody who has admired your work, seeing through your work, speaking on things that are so important to me, and also giving the voice and defending people for speaking out, which you do with CBLDF, means a lot for a generation. And I think with this documentary, it's going to help see we need to highlight more of these people, because I think there's too many negative people that are put out there. And with this, it's going to inspire. So where am I going with this? So it's very helpful. I'm super excited to see it. So you signed on board to this. What was it like then working with these gentlemen to find the material to kind of chronicle your career, and then also get some of the other talking heads to participate?
Yeah, it's all of the above. Yeah, they've come to my home, I think 3 different times, and set up all the equipment, and basically, they want to see everything. What'll end up in the film, I don't know. But besides my career as a cartoonist and a publisher and the founder of the CBLDF and comics-related things, they're interested in, I guess I'm an unusual collector in that I collect a lot of things and a lot of maybe bizarre things. And one of my creations, if that's the right word, is not in the comics format so much as it's a thing I call the Valley of the Dolls, where I have hung and displayed hundreds, I think at this point thousands, of abandoned dolls and dolls I call Frankenstein dolls that I've tampered with. And so it was something I did entirely for myself. And now, thanks to their cameras, it'll be part of this film. So it will no longer be a private little escape. So I think that's why they call it oddly compelling. It's based largely on the comics career, but other things they find odd,
Yeah, I find that very, when I saw that aspect of this, I was like, oh, interesting. I'm aware, I think over in Japan, there's like an island where someone had done something similar to that effect. So when I saw that you were doing that, I was like, oh, maybe there's something closer that I can go check out. I don't know. I'm in the Northern Virginia area. I'm not sure where you're based, Dennis, but I would love to check out your forest. If you will.
Yeah, I'm in New England if you head north.
Okay. I love that. And we all have things that we enjoy in quirks, and it's just it's how we continue to just exist, and we should all live our lives and just have fun.
Exactly. When I meet a comics fan, I never assume they're just into comics. I assume everyone's got their own wrinkles, their own areas of interest, and if it was just comics, I would be surprised,
Definitely. So working with these gentlemen to give life to your career and show just all the various different intricacies, doing this for us, and the CBLAF days, when creating Kitchen Sink, just the various moments of your life, did they already have like a breakdown, or did you work with them to kind of, this is this period, and kind of help put together the timeline?
Yeah, good question. They had a general outline of things they wanted to cover. I think the emphasis probably is changing. I know in the current political climate, there's more of a concern about censorship and Big Brother. And so I think the First Amendment issues that I've championed are probably taking more prominence than they would have when they began. So it's an evolving thing. I've only seen excerpts. It's their film, and they will splice it together as they see fit. So I have to remain kind of neutral and respect their vision,
Definitely. Have you heard from any of the people they've interviewed to include to speak about you? Have you had like, hey, man, getting called up by some of your friends? I said this, maybe just give you some fair warning, or what was that like about hearing participants involved in the project?
Yeah, well, I think some of them they caught at SPX last year or year before when I was there. And others they visited in their home or studio. It's still ongoing. I think the next one they're going to see is Alison Bechdel. They've got Charles Burns, I think, and maybe Durf Backdurf. There's a number of people they still want to get to. So it's not a final list. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm reasonably comfortable that these are people I respect professionally. Some I know better than others. And they all have some aspect, I guess, of the career that they want to talk about. Alison, for example, her career began when she was published in Gay Comics, something I published back in, I think, late 70s. And that's apparently had a big impact on certainly the gay comics community. At the time, I just thought it was the right thing to do. I didn't think of it as, I don't think I would have used a word like pioneering or whatever. And I'm not gay myself. I just thought there ought to be a comic book with these voices expressing their own experience. And so that's what she's speaking to in particular. And I think other creators, it's going to be some other aspect of my career. So I guess it's a big jigsaw puzzle, and how the pieces all fit together is still a bit of a mystery to me.
Well, I know you'll never call yourself a pioneer, obviously, but you are, and we appreciate you kind of leading the charge unknowingly, so thank you so very much. I want to, with that being said, and we call you pioneer. You're a pioneer to me, Denis. Who do you think are the generation now that is speaking and leading the charge for what you've done with your work, your lifetime, your work, the lifetime of your work? Who do you think are the thinkers now, and do we not have one right now to help kind of continue to speak with this voice?
Well, that's a tough question because, first of all, I'm of an age where I'm not on top of everything that's coming out of the comics world right now. I certainly see a good percentage of it, but I would be reluctant to name names of a younger generation. There certainly are voices I think are important. I'm more comfortable talking about the ones that influence me, that are still the I would hope icons of our art form. People like Harvey Kurtzman and Will Eisner in particular were huge influence on me, and not just me, but my entire generation, because I grew up at a time when there were newspaper comic strips and there were newsstand comic books, but it was a very different field than it is now. Now you have comics aimed at every conceivable target audience. You have people of all ages, colors. It's completely different. When I was growing up, this was a field dominated by, white guys who either were syndicating strips in newspapers that in those days everybody read every day, no longer the case, or they were working for a handful of large companies like DC or Marvel or Archie. And if you worked for them, you had to do it all work for hire, and you were paid once, no matter how many times that book was reprinted or translated, and you didn't get your original art back. The publisher kept it. All of those things, it was a completely different universe, which I think is difficult for maybe some younger creators to get their head around. And so I was part of what was generally called the underground comics generation, and we were rebelling against that business model. It was not something that we ever wanted to follow. We wanted to follow our own muse. We wanted to control what we created. We wanted certainly to keep our art. We wanted to be paid fairly. So all of those things were incorporated into the underground comics philosophy, if that's the right word for it. And I can't say it was all necessarily conscious, something that we embodied in writing, but in talking to colleagues and just in reminiscing and so on, we were all united around that. I think we were the first generation to see that comic code authority stamp in the upper right-hand corner and to resent it. And we were also part of a rebellious generation that were coming of age during the Vietnam War when we were, in many cases, vehemently protesting what we thought was, an unjust and immoral war. And there were a lot of issues at that time that we were also caught up in that were causes, political causes, whether it be the gay rights, the legalizing marijuana, good on the list, the women's rights. So it was a particular generation, and the comics we did were a reaction to the world we were confronting and voicing a generation. So every generation has its own voices, its own issues, and I can't pretend to speak to that, though I can appreciate it from a certain distance.
Well said, and so momentous for me as a younger gentleman in this now arena, and fearing where we might be heading, but I don't want to get into politics and everything. But
Yeah.
I think the importance of your documentary is going to, I know from myself and some of my friends, going to help us because I think we need you more than ever, Denis. And so I'm thankful for this documentary. And I'm thankful for the team putting this together to help inspire and embolden us to be the voice now when I feel we're reverting back. And it is such a pleasure to speak with you, sir. And I really want to thank you for your time.
Well, it's kind of you to say, but don't be too kind. Just make me embarrassed. I think what's important is every generation has its own inspirations, and certainly I mentioned somebody like a Harvey Kurtzman when he created Mad. That was revolutionary to my generation. The kinds of things somebody like Eisner was doing in the 40s with the Spirit, just aesthetically, were such an inspiration when most comics, whether in newspapers or in comic books, were just, it was okay. Not that much was special. You got to keep in mind, it was stuff created for what was perceived as a kid market. Nobody's going to kill themselves to entertain a 10-year-old, right? But people like Will Eisner and Milton Caniff and Kurtzman, Al Cap, a number of cartoonists back in the day, they had self-respect. And for them, they weren't just talking to kids. And even though that was the perception, there were a lot of adult readers. You might even say closeted comics readers, because certainly going back to the 40s, 50s, and earlier, if you were at a party and you were an adult, and someone said you read anything good lately, you would never mention you read a comic book or had been following a comic strip in the newspaper. Those were not intellectually proper answers in that era. So cartoonists who were really trying their best to reach an adult audience seldom, even knew who that reader was. Newspapers were read by all ages. Comic books could be read by adults. But it took a handful of pioneers in a different era to take that art form seriously, both as the written aspect and the drawn aspect. So nowadays, we've got a very different market. You can certainly walk into a specialty comic shop in most major cities and college towns, and you can find comics online. You can buy them through all kinds of mail order services. They're more accessible than ever, and they're broader in scope than ever. They're also more expensive than ever. And so it's tough to compare. I think in some ways I'm jealous of a younger audience. And at the same time, I think, I still wax nostalgic for things I think were, can I say, superior when I was young.
Definitely. I think even as old and as young as I am, I definitely look at that and think about, man, if I only had these certain capabilities now, as a creative to get even more of my stories out there. I won't get into conversations of AI because I know that's also a big thing in our community and affects a lot of us as artists. But in certain ways, I think it's empowered, but also has taken away. But I just want to, again, personally thank you, Denis, as a person that has become educated. And to me, I credit comic books for helping me become the person that I am. And then as I became more of a fan and as a creative myself, learning about the pioneers like yourself that helped shape this industry that I love. I just want to thank you, sir, for everything. And I'm so looking forward to this documentary. I want to tell everybody again, please support Oddly Compelling. I'm gonna have the links to the Kickstarter campaign once it comes out in the links below. Yeah, sir, it is an honor, such an honor to speak with you and extend my thanks. And I can't wait for this to come out, and hopefully they'll have a premiere at Comic-Con in Baltimore, which I go to frequently since I'm in the DC area, or San Diego, or SPX. I would love to just meet you in person again and give you some flowers to just thank you for everything you've done. Sir.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you.
No worries, sir.
Oh, this is the part you edit out. Are we done, or you have more questions?
Oh, no, we're wrapped up. I was getting ready to close it out. I
Okay.
thought you were getting ready to say something again, but we can cut that all out. Everyone, the amazing Denis Kitchen, Oddly Compelling, an amazing documentary that's going to tell you about this important man that I have on my screen right now. The Kickstarter campaign will be launching very soon. Again, link in the description below. Again, thank you so much for your time, Denis. I'm Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World.
Okay.
All right, there's a cut.
Nerds rule the world.
Pleasure chatting with you. Love to all my nerds who rule the world.
Yeah. Nerds rule the world.
Yes, we do.
Thanks. Nerds rule the world. Thank you.
I love the nerds ruling the world, so more power to you.
Patrick, what up, man? And yes, they do. Nerds rule the world, kid.
Yes,
you know
sir.
I'm one
Thank
of
you. Awesome. Kuya P, Nerds Rule the World. Hello.
Yes, they do. Yes.
Oh,
Nerds rule the world.
I got.
It's in the title of your show, like Nerds Rule the World. Like, I want more black weirdos on screen, and I don't feel like we ever get to see that very much.
Thank you so much. Nerds do rule the world.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nerds Rule.
Love it.
Hello, Sarah. Hello, Julie.
Yes.
Rock on. I love it. Thank you so much.
It's good to see you. I love Nerds Rule the World.
But yeah, there's a heavy nerd component, man.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you ask me, nerds rule the world. So
Absolutely.
And
you're right. Nerds do rule the world.
We're just the best.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies.
Nerds so much.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
It's your boy Kuya P. Nerds Rule the World. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you.
do. They rule the world, all right.
Yes. Take care, Tony. Thank you, guys. And count us in to help me out with the edit. Here we go. In a 1, 2, 3.